Who am I? Who am I, you ask? I'm no pony. I'm just the shadow that hides in plain sight. I watched in horror as my best friend aimed down his scope, pointing it right at me. I couldn't even move. My brain couldn't comprehend the thought of Stardust taking aim at me. The muzzle of his rifle flashed. The crack filled the air. I heard Aura screaming my name, telling me to move. I would have if I could, but it was too late. Then something moved in front of me, and blood flew through the air. Next thing I knew, Aura was flying back from the impact of the bullet hitting her. We both landed hard, but Aura wasn't going down that easily. She flipped around, took hold of me, and flew off to avoid another shot from Stardust. I saw blood flowing from her shoulder as she flew towards the tree where I found Mom's pip-buck. Wingnut and Windthrasher not far behind. We almost made it to the top of the small hill when something slammed into Aura, forcing both of us to crash to the ground. When we hit, I rolled to my hooves, pulling out my plasma rifle, pointing it right at Stardust, who was doing the same thing with his newly acquired rifle. Aura was getting back to her feet as well, her spear already in her talons, its tip glowing with green energy. I had no idea what was going on with Stardust, but it looked in his eyes told me that something was wrong. I entered Sats and targeted his rifle. I don't know why he shot at me, but I wasn't going to just outright kill my friend. I fired. At the same time, Stardust's rifle fired. Our shots collided and a small explosion erupted between the two of us. We were both thrown back, but I was able to stay on my hooves. Stardust flapped his wings and took to the air, aiming down at me again. He didn't have a chance to get another shot off, though, because Aura came charging at him, her energy spear arcing through the air. Stardust dodged the slash. He brought his rifle around and slammed the stock into her bloody shoulder. She screamed and fell away. His rifle spun around again, pointing it right at her. Then, out of nowhere, Sin fell on Stardust. Her talons grabbed the rifle and twisted it out of his grip and threw it to the ground. He twisted in the air and slammed his rear hooves into one of her wings, then pulled out of her grip. He bucked her in the face and she fell, following his rifle on its way down to the hard ground. His eyes fell on me and dove in my direction. I dove to one side, but he predicted my move. He followed my dodge and tackled me. His hoof bucked me in the face as I skidded across the ground. I tasted blood on my muzzle and saw stars for a moment. "It's time you died, Shadow Star," he said as his hoof connected with my nose again. I moved my rear hooves under him and kicked hard, throwing him off of me. "Get the fuck off me, Stardust!" I jumped back to my hooves and ran towards him, bucking him in the face as he started to get back to his hooves. He cursed, then flapped his wings, taking to the air again. He looked down at me, hatred written on his face. He dove at me again, but Windthrasher landed in front of me, opening her muzzle and screamed. For a second, I thought it was going to work, but he moved out of the way of the blast of her voice, banking hard to the other side and came in to attack her. She jumped out of the way as he flew by, but he did a quick backflip and darted towards me again. I was going to fall for that this time. I ducked, then rolled as he flew over. When I came out of the roll, I darted towards my dropped plasma rifle. I just took hold of it with my magic, flipping around and pointing it right at Stardust. He stopped a few inches away and looked down the barrel. "You think you're fast enough to stop me, Shadow Star?" Aura ran over to Sin, right behind her, both of them ready to take down the Pegasus who wasn't acting like himself. "I want to know why you're acting this way, Stardust." He started to laugh. "I don't know how you know my old name, but it won't matter. You'll be dead soon, and the Enclave will finally be rid of you." "What are you talking about? I'm your friend. We have been for a while now," I said, backing away from him just a little, the plasma rifle shaking in my magical grip. "You're Stardust Knight, the Pegasus who helped me after I attacked the raider camp outside Cartwheel." His smile grew, and a bit of madness entered his eyes. "Stardust Knight. That name isn't mine anymore. What I was chosen to succeed Pride after you killed him." "Shadow, I don't think it's Stardust," Aura said. A light chuckle came from down the hill, and Cloak started to make her way towards us. "You're correct, Griffin. He's not Stardust. At least he isn't anymore." She looked over at Stardust. "Tell them who you are. Let them know the name of the pony who finally took down the courier mare." As you command, Cloak, he said, his grin still growing. I am Pride of the Arrogant, second member of the 7 Sins of Equinity, and the new leader. My eyes went wide. That's a lie. I don't believe you. That's envy, isn't it? You're just trying to screw with my head, because there's no way Stardust would ever attack me like this. I could see her smile under the hood. Are you really sure about that, courier? What do you really know about him? I glared over at her. What the hell did you do to him? She didn't do anything to me. I looked back towards Cloak, but he seemed not to care about the rifle pointed right at Stardust. Can I kill her yet, Cloak? Not yet, she said, looking back at me and my friends. I can make this really simple and easy for you, courier. Give me the Mark II, and if you do, I'll let your friends live. Aura moved closer to me and whispered, You can't give it to her, Shadow. It's just him and her. We can take him. Aura, it's Stardust. We can't just kill him, and you saw how he fought. I don't think anyone can even compare to him in a fight, I retorted. That's enough of that, Cloak said. Give it to me or you'll die. I looked down at the Mark II. All this crap over the stupid thing, left to me by my mom. Was any of it worth it? Was it worth my friends' lives? No, it wasn't. Nothing was. What would happen if I just gave her this? I looked back at her. Why do you even want it? Because it's mine. You have no idea what you have on your foreleg. It wasn't meant for a pony like you. She shouted, getting angrier. Now give it to me. I won't ask again. Even if I was willing to give you my pip-buck, I can't do it. I don't have any means to remove it, I said, lifting the Mark II and grinning over at her. If you want the Mark II, you'll have to come take it off my cold dead body. Aura's spear lit up again, and she readied it for another attack. And you'll have to get through us to do that. She sighed. I swear you're all a bunch of idiots. Kill them all, Pride. Don't hold back. Yes, ma'am, Stardust said, and without another warning, he jumped towards me. His hoof came down, knocking the plasma rifle out of my magical grip. His other hoof came around, connecting with my face. I flew back and gasped, blood flying out of my mouth, as I felt a tooth rip loose. Before I even hit the ground, Stardust was over me, his hoof coming down again for another attack. But before he could, Aura was there. She tackled him to the ground, bringing all of her weight down on top of him. He kicked her off and backflipped back to his hooves, then lunged towards her. He ducked under a slash she aimed for his head. His rifle came out and slammed into her still injured shoulder. She screamed again, but seemed to push past the pain. Her talon tightened on her spear and she brought it in for a slash again. He tried to dodge, but the spear slashed across his chest, scorching his armor and leaving a long gash. Aura, whatever you do, don't kill him. I don't know what's wrong with him, but we need to take him alive, I said, looking around for Cloak. Whatever was going on with Stardust, it had to do something with her. She dodged another strike, coming from a shot from Stardust, yelling, No shit, Shadow! You have anything else that's obvious you want to point out? I ignored her and kept my eye out for Cloak. Where did she get off to? Then I saw her making her way towards the tree where Wingnut was. I ran for it, yelling behind myself, I'm going after Cloak. Wind Thresher or Sin, get Wingnut out of there! Cloak heard my shout and turned towards me, magic glowing from under her hoof. I'm not letting you interfere anymore, courier! Magic circles showed up around her head, followed by a blast of dark blue energy. I teleported and reappeared not far behind her, but to her left. As I expected, she turned around, readying to fire another blast of energy behind herself, right where she thought I'd show up. I grinned, pulling out my plasma rifle, and fired. She screamed as she flew back from the force of the blast, part of her cloak melting away in an instant, revealing a dark purple combat armor beneath. I didn't waste any time. Entering Sats, I took aim at her body and fired 3 blasts into it. I was rewarded with another scream of pain from the bitch who took my best friend away from me. Her body flew back, slamming into the dead tree and then falling to the ground, unmoving. Nice shot, Shadow, I heard Sin say, coming to line next to me. Thanks. Where's Wingnut and Windthrasher? I asked.
Windthrasher grabbed him and they flew down the path. I think she was trying to get him away from the fight,
she said, looking back towards where Ara was still fighting Stardust. Damn, she's amazing, I said, watching as Aura took to the air, her spear glowing brilliantly as she slashed stabbed, ducking under his blows and shots. I'm not sure how long she can keep this up, though. She took a nasty shot to that shoulder. Sin grinned.
Don't worry about Aura. She can handle herself against a Pegasus like him. Don't worry about her injury either. She's been trained to ignore the pain from that kind of wound. Right now, we need to worry about that unicorn. She's the key to all of this.
I turned and looked towards Cloak, who was still lying there, unmoving. Is she still alive?
Looks like it. That armor's strong.
Keeping the plasma rifle lifted, I moved closer, and using my magic, I flipped around to her back. She groaned, then said, "Damn you, courier. I'm not going to die by your hooves the same way you killed my brother." I pointed the rifle right at her hidden face. Your brother got what he deserved after all the pain and misery he brought to the wasteland. Now, I think it's about time you start answering some questions. First, tell me who you are and why you want my pip-buck. Her voice grew angry. It's mine! It was stolen from me and hid away by that bitch from the Steel Rangers. I've tried to find it for years, and right when I thought I'd finally gotten my hooves on it, you show up, already wearing it. Liar. This pip-buck once belonged to the ponies in Trotston where it was stolen. It was left for me by that pony you called a bitch. My mother made sure I got it. She's the only pony who I'll give it to, I said, filling with rage as I pressed the barrel right against her chin. Who are you? To my amazement, Cloak just started to laugh. Who am I? Who am I, you ask? I'm no pony. I'm just the shadow that hides in plain sight. The mayor who controls everything from under this hood. I'm the true leader of the special forces of the Enclave. The pony that the Sins call their boss. I am no one. They call me Cloak because no matter what happens, no pony will ever find out who I am. Not even you, courier. Even if you saw my face, it'd still be no pony to you. I'd just be another unicorn, another face among the crowd. I blend in, and no pony even knows the true danger that hides behind who I really am. The better question is, who are you, courier? Why does that thing on your foreleg mean so much to you? I'm just a mare who got stuck with it, a pawn of my mother's. Just like your brother was the pawn of your beloved Enclave. A tool they used to kill ponies they didn't like or who got in their way. Don't talk about him like you know him, courier. You don't know the pain he felt every day of his life, what he had to do to try and earn forgiveness for his sin. You don't know how hard he had to fight to hide his true feelings from the ones they call themselves the Council. He was a better pony than you could ever hope to be. He took on the role of pride for me, not the Enclave. He took on the disguise of pain for the title of his family, to show me how sorry he was for what he did, she screamed.
Shadow, we can't just sit here like this. Aura's gonna need help soon, and if she's the one controlling Stardust, we need to kill her now before she hurts any pony.
Sin interrupted. I shook my head. No. Go help your sister with Stardust. Just buy me some time. For a moment, it looked like Sin was going to argue, then she just sighed.
You did pay the contract to help get him back, so I'll follow your orders. But I'm also gonna put out a distress signal for my teammates so they can find us. Don't take long. There's no way to know if more Sins are around here.
I nodded, then looked back towards Cloak, who was shaking with rage, but she didn't try to move or cast a spell. Tell me, what did Oricalis do that he needed to repent for all that? He killed my daughter! And don't call him that. You have no right to call him by his true name! She hissed, anger rolling off her every word. As she said that, one of the memories from Pride flew into my mind like a flood. I could see everything around me as if it was a living memory of Pride himself. His thoughts, his emotions, his power came to me as if it was my own. It was like living in an even more realistic memory orb. Pride was looking down at dozens of scattered notes in 2 books, one in Old Zebra, the other in King Sombra's journal. So, a power like this needs to be used to control both dark magic from around me and my own power. I thought I was only something that could be done with a few ponies like Twilight or the princesses. I haven't even been able to do something like that yet, and I'm the most powerful unicorn around here. But after reading King Sombra's notes, and mixing them with my own, I think I can get this first spell to work, he said, scratching his chin. A sound echoed from behind him, and he turned towards that. It looked like a crib. He moved away from his desk and walked closer to it. As he did, I noticed something around him was clean. It was like he wasn't in the wasteland at all, but a place that wasn't even hit by the war. Once he reached the crib, I felt his lips pull into a smile. He looked over the side of the tiny filly inside. She looked so tiny and fragile, but I could feel that pride. She was also powerful. Her horn was glowing a dull red as she was making her blanket and pillow float above her. She was still sleeping, though. He chuckled, and his own magic pushed it back down. So much power for such a small thing. I think that one day you're going to be just as powerful as your uncle. A hoof came out, and he brushed along her jet-black mane. At first, I was angry that your mother made me watch you when I had so much work to get done. But, come to think of it, it's nice to get an excuse to slack off a little. She just made a little snore as she rolled over and her horn started to glow again. He chuckled. What are you dreaming about as you use your magic even in your sleep? Well, I'll let you sleep a little longer. Uncle needs to finish one last thing, then I'll let you eat something. A growing filly like you needs to keep her strength up. He covered her again, and the blankets now turned back towards his desk. Now, where was I? He said as he started looking over the spell again. I know I can get it this time. I've taken all the necessary steps. He started to pull on his magic. As he did, he also started chanting in a language I didn't understand. In front of him, a black ball of magic started to form. Whatever it was strong. I could feel his body getting weaker, but he kept it up until the black magic pulled itself together, forming a perfect sphere. Then it flashed and seemed to solidify into something solid. Yes! Finally, I was able to form into something. With this one spell alone, I can do so much for our kind. He pulled on his magic, was great, but pride seemed not to notice. I'll show every pony that I'm the most gifted unicorn in the Enclave. I alone can show the rest of the Enclave that Nimbus and the Crystal Empire are more than just a bunch of oddballs. Something crashed behind him, followed by a child's cry. He turned and saw the crib was surrounded by a red magical aura. The filly had knocked it over and was now lying on the ground, crying loudly. Ah, shit. Sis is going to kill me. He took hold of the small filly with his magic, trying to lift her into the air and put her back into her crib, but something happened. As soon as his magic touched the filly, something seemed to snap inside of his mind. His control on his magic faltered for just a moment. No. Forgot about the other spell! He said as the black ball of magic that had been floating behind him only a moment later before shot around his head, followed the magic that he cast on the filly and slammed it into her. No! He screamed as an explosion of darkness erupted where the filly had been, and she vanished in this dark light. When it ended, Pride was looking at what was left. The crib was gone, the floor was blown apart, and in the center of it was the still form of the filly. She was such a tiny thing. Her coat seemed to shine while sitting in the middle of the dark spot left by the last. She didn't move as Pride rushed over to her, one of his golden hooves moving down and slowly pulling her limp form into his arms. No. No. Please don't be dead. I didn't mean to do it. It was an accident. He hugged her form close to his chest and sobbed. Don't take her away. Please, she's just a foal. She was perfect. She was beautiful. I didn't mean for it to happen. Then, to his amazement, he felt a small flutter from the filly. It was faint, but she was still breathing. He set her down, then pressed an ear to her chest and listened closely. Her heart was still beating, but it was weak and getting weaker with each passing second. I can fix this. I just need a counterspell. Has to be something in my notes. He didn't have time. Something slammed into him from behind, throwing him into the far wall. followed by a deep voice.
What the fuck did you do in here, Orcalis?
Pride looked up and saw a Pegasus in dark power armor. He was as tall as Night Stalker, his voice just as deep, and he gave off the voice of an aura of danger. He had blades on the wings of his power armor that glowed with a silvery light. His visor was deep red and his tail ended in a sharp point, like most power armor the Enclave had. His mane was dark blue, and one streak of pure white coming down the center of it. It was visible that his coat looked to be a deep black, much like my own. It was an accident. I don't know what happened. The Pegasus looked down at the small filly and said, She's still breathing. We have to get her to her mother before it's too late. I'll come with you. I'm sure I can help. Don't you dare. You stay away from my daughter. You hear me, Orcalis? You've done enough. You better pray she doesn't die, because if she does, you'll have more than just me to worry about. Even if she doesn't, I swear I'll make sure you're executed for this. Pride put a hoof up, trying to say something, but the Pegasus lifted little filly in his hooves and took off into the air, flying out of the door as quickly as he could. Pride left his hoof drop as he whispered to himself, I'm sorry, sis. You know I wouldn't do anything to hurt her. I didn't mean to. All I wanted was to find a new magic that could show every pony that our family isn't useless. The memory faded away slowly, and soon I found myself looking back at Cloak, who was still on her back, looking up at me from under the shadowed hood. I pulled my rifle back just a little and asked, He used a dark curse and killed your daughter, didn't he? He did. That's why he did what he did after. He didn't want to let the leaders of Stratus kill him over a stupid mistake. He gave up his body to become a pony, his pride. Cast away his name, family, and rights, just for me. Because even though my daughter lived for a while after that night, she still passed away from the damage that was done to her heart by that spell. She said. What does any of this have to do with me or the Mark II? Not like anything on this thing could have saved her life, I said, still making sure to keep the rifle trained on her face. How has it have everything to do with that? If it hadn't been stolen away from me after I'd gotten it, I couldn't have saved her. How? How could a simple pip-buck, no matter how different, have changed her fate? She glared at me. I could have unlocked falling shadows and obtained the power I needed to fix her. I don't blame my brother for her daughter's death. I blame the ponies in this forsaken wasteland who took my one chance to save her. Then if she's dead, why do you want it now? I yelled. Because if I can't have my daughter back, then I still take all the power I can from falling shadows, and I'll use it to make sure no pony ever has to go through what I did again. Don't you see, Courier? I'm doing this to save ponies. With the information that's locked away on that thing, I can unlock the project. I would be able to be as powerful as both princesses combined. I could use my magic to heal the sick, to stop evil, and to destroy the powers of our shitty world once and for all, so that finally Equestria can rise again. I couldn't get EC 1101 in Hoofington, so that pip-buck is the only thing that can unlock falling shadows. See, I'm not the bad mare here, Courier. Ponies like you are. So, you're doing all this for power? I asked. Of course I am. What else is there in this world but power? Only with power can I right the wrongs of this land. She bucked me, throwing my rifle to one side as she shot a blast of energy towards me. I was already moving. I felt the blast of energy miss me by an inch or two. Then I took aim with my rifle and fired at Cloak, who was jumping to her hooves. She dodged the shot just in time, then she darted behind me and behind the tree, laughing. You should have killed me when you had the chance, Courier. Now it's too late. A crack of gunfire erupted in the distance. A bullet slammed into my barding, almost punching through. I screamed, then jumped back as two more shots rang out, followed by the voice of a pony who was starting to really piss me off. It was Wrath. Long time no see, Courier. How about you stay still now and let me blow your brains out? Fuck you, Wrath, I yelled as I ran towards the tree that Cloak was using for cover. The Stardust landed in front of me, his rifle raised. Not so fast, Shadowstar, he said as he pulled the trigger. I'm not letting you get that close to the boss again. I didn't slow. I teleported right as he took his shot, reappearing behind him. I ran on, going for Cloak, who I could see was trying to make a run for it. I wonder why she wasn't teleporting away. I know she had the ability to do that before. Unless it wasn't Cloak. Switching to Dreamwalker, I hit Sats and fired. My 2 shots blew into Cloak's side, blowing her off her hooves and sending her rolling along the ground. By the time she came to a stop, I saw that her body had changed. Getting to his hooves, Envy dusted himself off the ground.
Figured it out a lot faster this time, Shrimp. Too bad you're still too late, just like before. Now, it's my turn to make you pay for what you did to the old Pride.
Sorry, but I've got to deal with a cloaked mare. Let's try again next week, maybe around 7, or whenever you're free, I said with a smile, teleporting away, reappearing at the bottom of the hill and right in the path of Cloak, who stopped dead in her tracks. I looked up and saw Stardust was flying towards me, his rifle raised, but in came Aura and Sin again. He must have run from them trying to help Cloak. Knowing that they could take care of themselves, I looked back at Cloak and grinned as she stuttered. How did you know the way I was running? Lucky guess, I said, my horn glowing bright red as I walked towards her. So, Cloak, where's all your fancy magic like you were using before? Did the Alicorn's spell damage your horn or something? Because the last time I fought you, you put up a better fight than this. Fuck you, courier, she said, her horn glowing an icy blue from under her cloak. I was saving my strength. I didn't think I would need to use it with the Sins here to help, and how weak you are. Oh, I'm not as weak as you think I am, Cloak. You see, I have my own special talent. Let's call her a gift. A creature that's so powerful that she was able to take on Pride and almost win. Because of her, my own power has gotten stronger. I can feel it coursing through my veins, and the more I look at my friends fighting for you under some kind of spell, the more I hate you, Cloak. The more I hate you, the more powerful my magic seems to become. You're lying. There isn't anything in the world that can use magic like that. I'm not scared of your threats or your lies. Now, you're going to pay for what you did to my brother, and when you're gone, I'm going to take that pip-buck off your foreleg. Let's see you try. I fired a spell at her, one that I learned from the fight with Pride while I was using Aquila's magic. Without her power to back it up, it wasn't as powerful as it could have been. But with my anger fueling it, the blast was far more than enough to blow past whatever spell Cloak was trying to use. It blew her off her hooves and sent her skidding across the ground. I walked towards her. She looked at me, her cloak almost all the way gone, but her hood still remained. I'll end you, courier! I reached her and slid my hoof into her face, throwing her back onto the ground. She moaned and spat out some blood as she breathed slowly. I knelt down and took hold of her hood with my magic at the same time I lifted Dreamwalker to push it through the shadows of her hood. Now, let's take a look at who you really are. I want to see the look in your eyes before I send you to the flaming pits of hell. Before she could say anything else, I ripped the cloak and hood off of it, tossing it away, letting the dim light shine down on the mare's face. I was going to pull the trigger as soon as it was gone, but what I saw froze me in place. I started to shake as I looked down at the mare who made my life hell for the past couple of weeks. The mare who took Stardust away. The mare who sent the Sins after me. The mare who killed so many to get where she wanted. What I saw was a middle-aged mare with a light blue coat, dark gray eyes, and a short gray mane, with one silver streak in it. Around her neck was a voice modulator, and in the cracks of her armor I could see her cutie mark, a brown spell book, with a ribbon running through it, and a zebra glyph on the cover. Dreamwalker shook in my mental grasp as I looked down at her, into the eyes of the pony I'd been looking at ever since I left Stable 28. The mare who left all those clues for me to follow. The mare who gave me the Mark II to keep it safe until I found her. The mare was older, the eyes filled with hatred, not love. Her body seemed to look more tired than I'd ever seen it, but there was no mistaking who it was. No. You can't be her, I said, taking a step back as my mother got to her hooves, her horn glowing slightly. What are you talking about, courier? So now what are you going to do now that you've seen my face? Going to shoot me with that pistol? Or are you going to give me what's mine and let me end you finally? Because after the last attack, I don't think I can manage another. My mother said, taking a step towards me. Mom? I said, my mind not able to comprehend what my eyes were seeing. It's me. It's your little star. First Stardust and now my mother? What the fuck was going on here? She froze, but instead of recognition, she looked ready to end me. Don't ever call me that. And don't ever use that name, do you hear me? My little star is dead. She died 10 years ago. How dare you even try and use her name against me, courier? Mom? How do you not know who I am? You left me in Stable 28 when you ran off. You gave me the Mark II. I didn't die. You did something to save me, then hid me away in the stable. You changed my name to Shadow Star and kept who I was hidden. Shut up! I know what happened to my daughter. Pride told me everything after... She stopped and shook her head. No. You don't need that information. I don't know you. You can't fool me into thinking you're my beautiful star. Her horn started to grow in magic. Magic circles appeared around it. I readied my own spell, taking a couple steps back. You're Grimoire spell, aren't you? Her eyes grew wide. I don't know how you figured out so much about me, courier, but I'll make sure that information dies along with you. She let out her spell. I dodged to the side and cast my own, blasting her off her hooves again. She flew back and rolled along the ground, coming to a halt. Before she could get back, I pressed Dreamwalker against her temple, my body shaking. What happened to you, Mom? Why are you like this? She glared up at me. The wasteland was a horrible place that we used to call Equestria. Did this to me, courier. I used to be a good mare. I used to be a good wife. I was a good mother. All of that was taken away from me the day I came home. I left it, searching for some way to help my little star. Even she was taken away. All I had left was the hatred I felt for this land, the ponies in it, Oricalis. And then he was taken away from me by you. Her voice filled with rage. All I have left is the hate, and I'm going to make this world pay for everything. I got back to my hooves. She did as well. I let her. There was no way I could have shot her. I felt like crying, like screaming, like demanding the answers I knew she owed me. But that was the old Shadow Star. I had to ask myself, what would the courier mare do? The sad thing was it's simple. It didn't matter who she was. She was a threat to me, the wasteland, and a threat to the place I now call home. I pulled back on the hammer. You may look like my mother, but whoever you aren't her. You don't have to believe me about who I am or not. It doesn't matter anymore. I'm sorry, Mom. I can't let you live. I pulled the trigger. The hammer came down. The pistol barked, and before I could kill my mother, or rather the shell of my mother, she vanished. The bullet slammed in the ground right where she'd been only a second ago. The hell did she go? I turned looking for her, but it was like she just vanished. I turned my head slowly, looking for a sign of where she could have gone. Then something hit me. She hadn't teleported. She just vanished. I twisted back around, as my mother came back into view. She moved just to the side of where I'd shot her. It looked like she was tossing a stealth buck to one side as her horn started to glow, a triumphant look on her face. I told you before, courier. You can't win against a pony like me. I pointed Dreamwalker, entered Sass, and took aim at her head. With a tear rolling down my face, I activated the spell and fired. Dreamwalker barked. Fire erupted from the barrel as the bullet flew towards her. I watched as time seemed to slow down, the bullet about to pierce her flesh, a black glow surrounding it. Then there was a flash of gray and blue as Stardust tackled her to the ground, the bullet scraping along the top of his combat armor. Time fully resumed. Stardust rolled away from my mom as she came back to her hooves, and a blast of magic flew into me. I felt pain rack my body as I was thrown back, skidding across the ground. I rolled, then came to a stop. I looked up towards my mother. She was flanked by Stardust and Envy, who was grinning at me from her other side. Turning my head, I looked for Aura or Sin, but couldn't see my friends. Wind Thrasher ran off with Wingnut. I was alone. I couldn't count on them this time. I closed my eyes and tried to think. I could really use your help right now, Aquila, I said quietly, but there wasn't any answer. Even she was gone. I pushed myself to my hooves, doing my best to hide my shaking legs. I smiled, then pulled out something I knew would give me an edge. I pointed Solar Flare's rangefinder at all of them. Don't take another step towards me. Or what? Mom said. Or I'll do to you the same thing I did to Appleton. All three looked scared, even Envy. Stardust asked, You wouldn't dare do anything like that. If you did, you'd get caught in the blast too. I smiled with bloody teeth. Do you think I care about what happens to me? All I care about is stopping her. I pointed at my mom. If I have to die here to accomplish that, then so be it. She glared at me, and it took everything I had to hide the hurt I felt at seeing the look on her face. Even if we leave and you live another day, what makes you think I would come after you again? Because I was already able to take you on, Mom. I won. Whatever power you think you have is nothing but a sham. I'm getting more powerful as each day passes. My magical skills are growing. And I have an ace up my sleeve, I said, taking one step back to increase the distance between us. As I did, I felt one of my hooves slip and almost tripped into empty space. I must have been backed up against the edge of a cliff. What are you talking about? You mean that super weapon you used in Appleton to kill old Pride? Envy asked, his big smile showing on his face. That thing can't work everywhere. What will you do when we catch you underground or inside a building? Aren't you just gonna... After you use the weapon, maybe, huh? I snickered. Oh, you mean this thing? I waved the rangefinder at them. No, what I have is way different. You see, Mom, thanks to you, I have something living inside of me. Something powerful and dark. Right now, I have to keep her on a short leash. But if my life is in danger, she'll come out, and she makes your power look like fool's play. I'm sure deep down you remember the day you took me someplace and used whatever you were looking for to save my life. It worked, but something got into me. Something you were scared so much of that you caged her in the furthest depths of my mind. I didn't remember doing anything like that. Stop your lying, courier. I won't warn you again, she said, taking another step towards me, her horn glowing. I saw something moving behind them. A quick flutter of wings. It had to be Aura. I just needed to keep them talking. I tell only the truth, but if you don't believe me, fine. Maybe you should look into something called Aquila. That's the name of the thing that's living inside me. Maybe that'll help you remember who I am. Fuck you! She started to yell, but then with a screech and a flash of light, Aura blasted into the air just behind them, her spear glowing like the sun itself. In a quick slash, a blast of energy flew between all three. Envy moved first, his body jumping out of the way as he twisted in the air. His wings flapped so he could interrupt the Griffin. Stardust did a backflip, his rifle coming off his back to aim up at Aura. Mom, however, used the moment to strike. She bolted forward, her hoof coming up to push the rangefinder aside, her other hoof slamming into my face. She collided with me a moment later, and we both flew back over the edge of the cliff. I grabbed onto anything I could. My hooves grabbed hold of the cliff's edge, Mom holding onto my body as we dangled over the precipice, nothing but darkness below us. I heard a couple of shots, then I saw Envy go flying over me, his body slamming to the other side of the cliff as it fell into the darkness below. My hooves started to slip. I did whatever I could to get a better grip, but it was hard with Mom's weight added to my own. Fuck, Mom said, tightening her grip. Why are you so worried? I'm sure you could teleport yourself back to the top, I said as my forelegs started to shake. Not right now, I can't. I used too much power at the last attack. How about you pull us both up? Right, yeah, because I have that much strength, I said, my hooves slipping more. Fuck, if you don't let go, we're both gonna go down. She was about to say something when my hooves finally gave. We both fell for only a second before a talon took hold of my foreleg, stopping us. I looked up into Aura's eyes. She was grinning down at me.
How's that for just in the nick of time?
Shut up and pull us up, Aura. Both of us. I may not like what happened to my mom, but with the rage seething to have left me after the fall, I really didn't want her dead anymore. I wanted to understand what was going on here. I felt the Griffin pull up our bodies, lifting us back over the edge. A moment later, both of us were back on solid ground. What happened to Stardust and Envy? I asked as Aura moved over to Mom and pressed the tip of her spear to her neck.
Sin managed to bring Stardust down with a sneak attack. She's keeping him pinned right there,
she said, pointing with her free talon towards her sister who was holding Stardust down. The tip of a blade pressed to the back of his head.
Envy didn't expect that attack, and I was able to dodge his first strike, and he took a nice kick to the face. He was flying down that hole I just pulled you both out of. I don't think he'll be much of a problem now.
As she spoke, I pulled out one of the last healing potions and downed it before looking over at Grim. Now, how about you tell me what you did to Stardust?
I don't know what you mean. I didn't do anything to him. Just ask him yourself,
she said, her eyes looking at my friend, who glared at me.
Isn't that right, Pride?
She's my boss. She recruited me from my stable just last week after Pride was killed. I don't know why you think you know me, Shadowstar, but you don't. I've never met you before in my life.
See? Nothing's wrong with him. He knows exactly who he is.
I moved forward and slammed my hoof into her face, sending little flecks of blood to the ground. You're lying. Now, tell me what kind of spell you used on him to make him forget who he is. She laughed again, which slowly transformed into a short cackle, her face looking more psychotic. With a smile, her own blood covering some of her teeth. Her voice lowered to a whisper that only Aura and I could hear.
No magic was used on him. No, he doesn't remember who you are because he was re-educated. It's a process that Stable 97 uses to keep their soldiers in line. Stardust was one of the best ponies here. He's training perfect. His skills with hoof-to-hoof combat were unlike anything seen before. His abilities with ranged weapons were better than most veterans. He was a perfect soldier. But he lacked the ability to take any command given to him. So, he was scheduled to be re-educated before he escaped. But his stupid friend snuck him into a restricted area of the stable and found out the truth behind what was going to happen to him and helped him escape. All we did when we captured him was make sure he was fixed. He only sees the Enclave as his family now, and the only thing he cares to protect. I looked back towards my friend. I don't believe it. He has to still be in there somewhere. He's not. We wiped everything from his mind. Everything about you, about his time outside the stable, and replaced the memories with new ones. As far as he knows, he never met you. I kept my eyes on Stardust as I said, Is that true, Stardust? You don't remember me? He spat blood onto the ground before answering. Like I said, I've never seen you before today. How could you forget me, Stardust? You have to remember how you saved me from the Raider boss, or how you chased down Aura to free me. Did you really forget the times we spent traveling, or the day I saved Wingnut, who you treated like a little brother? How could all that be gone? I asked. At Wingnut's name, something seemed to change inside those pink orbs. They softened a little. Wingnut? Why does that name sound familiar? His eyes closed as if he was trying to think hard. I saw more wings coming towards us. It was Windthresher and Wingnut. They both landed a little ways away, the colt jumping off her back and walking slowly towards Stardust, who was pinned to the ground by Sin. Sin, why are you holding Stardust down? The stallion's eyes snapped open as Wingnut spoke, and he looked over at the blue colt. Have I seen you somewhere before, kid? Wingnut looked over at me, confused. What's wrong with him, Shadow? He's been brainwashed. He doesn't remember us. But something about you seems to be snapping him out of it. Keep talking to him. Grim tried to say something, but Aura pressed the blade of the spear against her neck, saying, Keep quiet, before I slice open your windpipe and let you drown in your own blood.
The Colt turned his attention to Stardust.
You're my best friend, Stardust.
That's not my name, kid. I'm Pride, he said, but he didn't sound as convinced as before.
No, you're not. You're Stardust Knight, the pony who showed me how to be a stallion. You helped save me from cazadores and made me feel better when I was scared at night,
he said, taking a step towards him. I remember a colt, but it was like a dream. Something with bugs, and there was a filly too. He was kind of a snot, but he was cool too. You look like him. How could that be?
Because I was real, Stardust.
That is Wingnut. I'm Shadowstar, your best friend. Come on, somewhere deep inside you remember us, I said, trying to get through his thick skull. His eyes hardened again. The courier mare, Shadowstar, is the enemy of Stratus and Nimbus. She's a liar and will mess with ponies to get them on her side. She can't be trusted. The same goes for the ponies who follow her. He was slipping away again. I had to figure out a way to get him to remember. Then, a story he told me about his escape came to mind. Stardust, do you remember what happened to your friend Hailstorm? His hard glare fell on me again. How do you know about him? I know because you told me what happened to him. You told me how he tried to help you escape and how he died when the stable door closed on him. He died so you could get away. He did that so you could make a new life for yourself, find real friends and make a name for yourself. Grim started to laugh from behind me. Nice idea bringing up a dead friend, but we already thought about that. What did she mean? I got my answer quickly because I saw rage filling his eyes as he yelled, "Don't you say a word about Hailstorm! They were right. You do spread lies about ponies. Hailstorm was killed by you weeks ago when he was out here doing recon. That story you told me about me helping you with the raider camp. From what I learned, the pony who helped you was my best friend Hailstorm. He was just trying to help ponies. And you killed him after he saved your life. That's why I took the role of Pride. Because when I found out who killed him, I swore I'd get vengeance on the mare who killed the pony who just wanted to help." No, Stardust, that's not true. You were the pony who helped me, not Hailstorm. I didn't kill him, I tried to say, but it was far too late. In a quick twist, he pulled his head to one side, rolled around, and threw Sin off of him. Kasuf came around and slammed into the side of her head, knocking her out cold. He flapped his wings and dove right for Aura, who was stunned as she watched her sister go down. Kasuf slammed into her, throwing her off Grim. He picked her up and lifted her away from both of us. Once he was out of reach, he twisted and said down to me, "This isn't over, Shadowstar. I'll find you again, and when I do, you won't have as much warning as you did this time. Next time I see you, you're dead." Stardust, please don't go. You have to realize that they're lying to you, I tried to say, but he ignored me. He tapped a gem on his armor and said, "All Sins report back to base. It's time to regroup." Then he left, leaving us behind again like we meant nothing to him at all. Aura picked herself up and flew over to her sister.
Cindy, are you okay?
The other griffin moaned when she opened her eyes.
I told Mom I wasn't the right griffin for this job. I'm not that great of a fighter.
Aura looked relieved.
You held your own pretty well against them. I'd be happy to have your help in a fight any day. Thanks, sis. But I think I'll stick to medical intel and work. It's less dangerous.
Wingnut came over to me while Aura was checking on Sin. The look on his face almost broke my heart.
What's wrong with him?
I pulled him into a tight hug. I don't know. But don't worry. We'll find a way to get him back. He pulled away.
I hope so.
Look on the bright side. At least we know he's still alive. He may not remember us, but he's alive.
Yeah, I guess that's one good thing. But I still don't understand what's going on with him. And who is that mare?
He asked. That was the hooded mare Cloak. My mom. My voice faded away with that last word. Everyone froze and went quiet. It was Aura who finally spoke up.
I thought I heard you say something about that, but are you sure?
Yeah, of course I'm sure. I'd know my own mom. Something's wrong with her, though. I know what I've been hearing about her, but something changed. She didn't even know who I was.
Well, it's been 8 years since she's seen you. You've grown up. Not to mention she's getting up there in years. Memory might not be what it once was.
Windthrasher said. No, I don't look that different from how I looked years ago. I'm just a little taller. Mom should have known it was me. Plus, I have a Mark II, which she left for me. She doesn't know who I am. She thinks her daughter died. It's just like Stardust. Somebody in the Enclave is messing with Pony's memories. Also, she's not that old, Windthrasher. I think.
Are you sure about that?
Windthrasher asked. It's the only thing that makes sense. Then something hit me. Pride calling Mom sis. Did that mean that Pride was my uncle? Or was that part of the memory manipulation? No. I remember that memory of Pride's. The filly he hurt. It was me. Oh, my goddesses.
What?
Aura looked back at me. I think Pride was my uncle.
So what? He was a monster. Don't go beating yourself up over his death,
Aura said. I guess you're right. But still not an easy thing to hear. If he's my uncle, that means I'm from the Enclave. I started breathing heavily. This whole time I've been fighting ponies from the Enclave. The Sins have been trying to kill me the whole time. I've been one of them. My breathing hastened. Sin limped over to me, saying,
Hey, calm down, Shadow. You're starting to hyperventilate. Take a few deep breaths and calm down.
I nodded and did what she told me. Do as Aura said.
You might be right, but that doesn't mean you're one of them, Shadow. Home is where you grew up. For you, that's stable 28. You're a stable pony no matter where you started out. Plus, every family has their dark secrets. So you killed your uncle. Sin secretly thinks one of my other sisters is a slut. Which one, I won't say.
I took another minute to slow my breathing before I said, This is just a lot to take in. I knew that finding out where I was from wouldn't be great, but still. The Enclave? And now I'm curious about which sister it is. Aura moved over to me, patting my shoulder.
Come on, Shadow. We don't know how long they'll be gone. We should really get out of here while we can.
You're right, I said, wincing as my body protested its newly acquired bruises. I moved towards Sin. Why did you come out here to find us?
I got the intel on Stardust last night. Went to Freedom, where we thought you'd still be, but the Queen said you headed off towards Stroston. I just managed to spot you,
she replied. What intel did you get on him? I asked. She looked sad for a moment.
A pony we know who works for the Enclave heard something about a new Pride. He told us the description of the pony, and it matched Stardust right down to his eyes. We figured that if he was the new Pride, there had to be a reason for it. So Gigi told me to find you and give you the information and to watch out for him, just in case something like this happened.
Yeah, I guess that would have been nice to know before we got in this situation. I still plan on trying to help him, even if it doesn't remember what happened. If I need you, will the Red Talon still help me? She nodded.
You paid for us to help you find him and get him back. So far, we've only helped you find him, so the contract isn't fulfilled yet. Though I'm going to request that another Griffin take over my place. Like I told Aura, I'm not much of a fighter.
Aura laughed, then winced, putting a talon to her injured shoulder.
I still think you're a good fighter, Cindy. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be able to hold my own against them.
Sin glared over at her sister.
I'm not as good as Fletch or you. I never will be. That's why I stick to medicine. Speaking of which, let me look at that shoulder before you head out.
Aura grumbled, but let her sister look at her shoulder. When she did, Windthrasher came over asking me,
What do we do now?
I sighed. There isn't much we can do until we think of a way to capture Stardust. I'll leave a message with Sin to bring Sergeant Doorstop before she goes. He probably knows what happened with him if it involves their old stable. While we wait on that, I'm going to continue to Spitfire's Flight Academy. I'm also going to see if I can somehow get a hold of a Watcher. I might be able to know what this Falling Shadows thing my mom was talking about was. She looked confused.
Who's Watcher?
It's a long story. Let's just say he's a pony that seems to know more about the wasteland than most. If he doesn't, I could always ask Nexus, I said, knowing the ghoul would most likely know more about what was going on.
Then we should start heading that way,
she said.
I still think you're nuts,
Aura said, pulling away from her sister, her shoulder already looking better.
But if that's where you want to go, then so be it. You said you had a message for me to bring to doorstop?
Sin said, coming back towards me. Yeah. Let him know what happened with Stardust. Tell him that the intel we found out, something happened to Stable 97. That messed with his head, and I want to know if he knows what it could be, I said.
No problem. I'll swing by Frosty Summit on my way back. Anything else you'll need before I go?
Not unless you have a few healing potions you can spare.
No, sadly. I didn't bring much with me and used the last of my healing potions and restoration potions to help Aura and myself.
Can't be helped out. Well, just be careful out there then. The Sins could still be around here, and I remember Wrath taking a shot at me earlier. He might still be watching us. She smiled at me.
Don't worry about me, Shadow. I'm not much of a fighter, but I can still dodge a sniper. Stay safe, all of you.
And with that, she took to the skies. Aura chuckled.
I know she doesn't like field work, but I'm glad Gigi said Cindy. She's the one Griffin that doesn't seem to care one way or another about what I did.
We started to walk north again along the path. She seems a lot nicer than the rest of your family. She the one who taught you some of the medical stuff, you know?
Yeah. When I was younger, I wanted to be a medical Griffin like her. I used to look up to Cindy when I was young. She's the oldest of us, and I always had so much respect. Me being the youngest, I wanted to have what she did. So she took me under her wing and showed me everything she knew. Later, my aunt saw how much of a natural I was with the spear and started to teach me how to fight. So you changed your mind on being a medical Griffin?
Wingnut asked.
I didn't change my mind. I just did both. Gigi was the one who started sending me on missions when I got older and helped me out in my contracts. I don't mind though. I'm still good at medical stuff. Maybe not as much as Cindy, but I'm still proud of what I know. Plus, none likes it matter anymore. I'm not a Talon anymore. Who cares what the rest of them think?
I'm glad you're not a red Talon, Aura, I said. She gave me a funny look.
Why?
Because if you were, you wouldn't have come looking for me to prove yourself to them. I wouldn't have ever met you. I'm happy that we did.
Yeah, we all are,
Wingnut added, beaming up at her. She blushed a little, then looked away.
Ah, shut up, both of you.
It's all besides the point, Aura. Life's just better with you around, I said, smiling a little. She ignored me and kept walking. Wingnut came closer and asked,
Shadow, how are you gonna do it if we can't fix what's wrong with Stardust?
I don't know, Wingnut. I really don't. Aura paused, then said,
If we can't fix what's wrong with him, you know what'll have to be done. Both of you do.
I knew she was right, but I didn't want to admit it. I'm not sure I could do that, Aura. I feel like if we killed him, it'd be like giving up on him.
I know. And I don't like the idea any more than you do, Shadow. Think about it this way. Would Stardust really want to be like that? Would he want to be going around killing his friends or innocent ponies?
No, he wouldn't. But he wouldn't want to be killed over something he can't control either, I retorted. She stopped and looked back at us.
Let's think about it this way then, Shadow. What would you want us to do? If Aquila took over your mind and there was no way we could ever fix you. While she has control of you, she's going around killing ponies. Ponies you want to help.
Then I'd want you to stop her any way you could, even if you had to kill the both of us doing so. I understand what you mean.
I won't do it. No matter what happens, I know we can help him. Somewhere deep inside, Stardust's still there, and I'm not giving up on him,
Wingnut said. He's in a dark place right now, boss.
What if he was trying to kill Shadow? Or me? What if he was going after Wind Thrasher? What would you do then? I'd find a way to help without killing him. He would do the same thing for us, and you both know it,
he said, glaring at us.
Aura, I'm ordering you not to kill him unless I say otherwise.
Aura looked worried as she said,
Boss, you can't give me an order like that. If he's trying to hurt you, I can't obey that order. You can help me or our friends without killing him. I know that for a fact. No killing Stardust unless I give the order. That goes for you too, Shadow.
Wingnut, I'm the leader here, not you. You can give orders to Aura, but you can't tell me what to do. I won't try to kill him, but if it comes between my friends' lives and Stardust, I'll do what I have to. Wingnut moved closer to me and put a hoof on my shoulder.
I hope it doesn't come to that, Shadow. Remember, though, that you don't always have to resort to killing. There are many different ways to stop an enemy without killing them.
I think so, but you're wrong. Sometimes killing someone's the only way to stop them. You should know that better than anyone. Look at Dr. Cell. It was a cruel thing to say, but I knew I was right. I hated the idea of having to kill my friend if it came down to it. The sad part was that it might be the only way to stop them. Her eyes fell at the comment, and she walked past me.
You didn't have to go there, Shadow. Stardust isn't Dr. Cell.
Wingnut followed her, the two of them leaving Aura and I behind. She sighed.
Maybe I said too much.
I just shook my head. No, it's just the truth and they don't like it. The truth hurts, and that's just the way life is in general. Not like I want to do it, but if I have no choice, then I will.
Does that go for your mother too?
She asked. Yes, it does. Though with her, I'm not sure if she's gone completely insane or what. All I know is that if this is who she is now, then I can't let her live. Not after what she's done. The more I hear about her, the worse it gets. I know for a fact now that I won't be giving her this pip-buck.
Well, that's a given. But I still think you should find out why she wanted it.
Aura said. I plan to. I have a feeling that we might be able to get information if we head to Spitfire's Flight Academy.
Why's that?
I've been thinking about this for a while now. When I was back at Frosty Summit, the voice I heard that told me to come here sounded a lot like the Stranger's. He kept showing up whenever I'm in trouble. It was like he's watching over me, and I think he wants me to know what's really going on. I also have a feeling he knows the pony who is hurting my mom.
What gave you that idea?
She asked. I saw it in Mom's memory orb. She met with a pony named Nightshade, and he was looking for me, though I'm not sure why. He told Mom that he'd look after me, and if he couldn't, then he'd have a friend who would. Mr. Tops told me about Nightshade, and he sounds too busy to be watching me all the time. So I think it's this friend he was talking about. If he knew what Mom was doing, he may want me to know what's going on, I replied.
This Nightshade. Maybe the reason he was looking for you is because he's your family. You told me you don't know who your dad is. What if it's Nightshade?
I smiled. It's a nice thought, but Mom told me he died when I was a foal. All I know about him was that he was a soldier and he died in a fight with some faction.
How do you know that's not another lie?
Because the way Mom talked about it. She was always in so much pain whenever he came up. I saw the hurt there, and I know she was telling me the truth. Father's dead. Though this pony might have known him, that explained why he wanted to find me.
Yeah, it's very possible. Though I still think we should be careful. We still don't know who this pony even is. Even if he did help you, that doesn't mean you can trust him,
Aura said. I know, but that's why I have you with me. She cracked a smile.
You know, I never can figure out how you're able to smile so easily even after finding out what you did.
I shrugged. the way I was raised. Auntie always told me that no matter what, I had to look at the good things in life. If I dwell on the bad in life, then I'll never be happy.
Let me guess. She started telling you that after you left your stable, didn't you?
Yeah. Didn't help, though. Though I did have my days where I'd let life get me down.
We all have those. Trust me.
I smiled, then changed the subject. So, tell me what you know about the Annihilators. We kept walking for a bit, Aura taking the time to think. Finally, after 10 minutes passed, and I was about to say something, she said,
I know what tripwire.
before we met, she was infatuated with the mayor who lived there for a few months.
I'm not sure how this mayor felt about her,
But she used to send messagings to her. Did the two of them ever meet?
They did once. The mayor snuck out of Spitfire's flight academy and met on the road to New Pegasus.
What does that have to do with the Annihilators? I asked.
I was getting to that.
She said, rolling her eyes.
From what I heard from Tripwire, the two of them spent most of the night and the next day together getting to know each other. What she said was that this mayor told her that the Annihilators were very secretive, even to most of the citizens. She was a young mayor and wanted more than anything to get away from the town and be free of their leaders, but most of it didn't care about it. One thing she said, Tripwire, was the fact that they blew up anyone who gets near them isn't really true, or so she said.
What does that mean for us?
We may not have to worry much about getting blown to tiny chunks if we get too close.
Do you believe that? I asked.
Honestly, I don't. But I also can't see how they could have that much weaponry after all these years. No matter which is true, I think we should be careful when we get close.
Wish there was a way we could get a message to them without getting too close.
I've been thinking on that for a little while now, and I think I have an idea.
Mind sharing with me? She gave me a crooked smile.
I will, in a few. First, I think we should catch up to Windthresher and Wingnut.
Why? I asked. She pointed at a radar tower in the distance, with a long runway and 3 hangars all surrounded by chain-link fence. All around the base were deep craters in the earth, all that remains of what must have been barracks just outside the fence. The only road that led to the gate went right through the destruction. We were on the top of a hill looking down towards it, and I could see a guard's tower by the gate on each corner of the fence. At the end of the runway was a broken-down airship. It was almost as large as Cartwheel. It was hard to believe that something like that was able to fly. Ponies were walking along the fence line. Most were wearing battle saddles with rocket launchers. Wingnut and Windthrasher were waiting for us at the top of the hill, looking down at the old airbase. Aura smiled.
That's why.
That used to be a flight academy? I asked.
Before the war got bad, they used to train young flyers for the air forces there. It was named after Spitfire, the leader of the Wonderbolts, who died in a raid on Rome. When the war escalated and the call for more soldiers came, the base was revamped to be used as an army base. But they still train flyers there. Just not as much as they used to for a strategic base.
Aura replied. Wingnut was watching the ponies who were walking along the fence line.
They look well armed. Are you sure we can get close enough to let them know why we're here?
Aura smiled.
Of course we can. How do you propose we do that?
Windthrasher asked.
Easy. We send Wingnut down there with a message for the leader that the courier mayor wants to meet with them.
Wingnut spun around with his eyes wide as saucers.
Why me? Because, from all the stories I've heard about them blowing up ponies who get close, it's always been Steel Rangers, Raiders, Fiends, Ghouls, or stupid ponies who have an ulterior motive. But I've never once heard about them blowing up cults or fillies. I have a feeling that if you get up their gate, they'll let you close enough to relay the message.
Aura said smugly. And what if you're wrong? I asked. She shrugged.
He's a small target, and quick. I'm sure he can get away fast enough. No way. I am not doing it,
Wingnut said, backing away from the griffin.
Come on, boss. Do you really want to look like a tiny little scaredy wussy in front of Shadow?
Aura said with a small grin. He paused, then glared at her.
Oh, you're so mean, Aura.
She chuckled.
Wingnut, do you really think I'd send you down there if I wasn't sure you'd be okay?
Well, no. That doesn't mean you're right.
I'm sure you'll be fine. Now we'll wait here and you head down towards the gate. Tell them that Shadow has a message for their leader and it's important.
He muttered to himself as he turned slowly and started walking down the path. He paused, then looked back at Aura.
You're gonna pay for this.
She grinned.
Whatever you say, boss.
He started walking again, his hooves starting to shake violently with each step. He reached the bottom of the hill and just entered the destroyed barracks. When he did, Aura started to chuckle to herself. Windthresher gave her a puzzled look and asked,
What's so funny? Oh, you'll see. Watch this.
She brought her talons up to her beak and yelled down at Wingnut.
Boom!
The colt jumped so high in the air it almost looked like he took flight. When he landed, he dove behind a piece of concrete, looking around for a missile blast. After a moment, he looked back at Aura, who was laughing so hard she couldn't stand still.
That was just plain mean, Aura,
Windthresher said, her ears drooping as Wingnut started walking down the path again. When her fits of laughter died down, she said,
This was the plan from the beginning. He needs to get a dose of reality now and then, and it was funny.
I couldn't help laughing too, since I was still irritated with him after interrupting my chat with Aura earlier. I mean, yes, he had a good reason, but still, couldn't he have waited 30 more seconds? So what if Aura scared the little shit? It was nice to see him jump for once. As he made his way closer to the gate, and the two guards noticed him, I moved next to Aura, and asked, So what happened with the mare Tripwire liked?
Not much, really. Later that day, one of the Annihilators found them and forced her to go back home. Tripwire said she never saw her again after that, at least not face to face. But she did use to spy her now and again, then helping around one of the hangars. I met her not long ago after that, so I thought she forgot about her feelings for the mare, so she couldn't get to.
Or she just fell for you and didn't need to worry about the mare anymore, I said with a small smile. Aura just shrugged.
Either way, I still got her in the end.
Windthresher smiled as we talked.
It'd be nice to find a stallion that loved me as much as you love Tripwire, Aura. Or you with Silver Shadow.
What do you mean? I'm sure you'll find some pony one day, Windthresher. You're sweet, I said.
That may be true. But what stallion's going to be able to see past this?
She said, gesturing to her scales and bat wings. Aura chuckled.
Looks aren't everything, Windthresher. I mean, look at Shadow. Silver fell for her, even though she looks like a 12-year-old. You'd be surprised at some of the weird fetishes you find that ponies and griffins have in the wasteland. Like crunchy old lady ghoul sex.
I do not, I said.
Yeah. Aura, don't be so mean to Shadow. She could at least pass for 13.
Windthresher said, smiling over me with a rare, creepy, toothy grin. I shivered and looked away. You're both jerks. At least I'm not batty or repeat things by proxy. The two of them kept laughing as I went back to watching Wingnut. He did manage to make it to the gate, and one of the guards was talking to him. He didn't look as scared as he did before. At least Aura was right about him not getting fired at. I saw him point up the hill towards us. The guard talked to him for another moment, then he turned and waved for us to come down.
See? That wasn't so hard, now was it?
Aura said, getting up and starting to walk towards the gate.
And by the way, griffins aren't part parrot, moron.
I followed, keeping my eyes on the ponies who guarded the airbase. I saw one run off towards the hangar as more guards came to watch the three of us join up with Wingnut. When we finally reached him, he said,
That wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Hey kid, is the short one the mare you were talking about?
A mare asked from the other side of the gate.
Yeah, that's Shadow Star, the courier. She's the one who wants to meet with your leader.
I always figured the courier would be a little taller and older. The guard said to the other guard. How'd a mare like you get such a reputation? I glared at her. You really don't want to know. She just shrugged.
If you say so. Tell me, why'd you send the kid all the way down here just to ask to see our leader?
Because we didn't want to get blown to bits. We figured you wouldn't fire on a kid, I replied. She grinned.
Damn, that's cold. Sending a kid in to do your dirty work, huh? Well, I'm glad to see your reputation's still holding strong in the wasteland. Yes, that is. So are you gonna let us in or not?
Laura asked. She laughed.
No pony gets in here unless Javelin says so. She should be here soon. I wouldn't get your hopes up, though. I haven't seen her let a pony in here for years. 3 years and 2 months,
a mare said, walking up to the gate. She was old, with mostly gray and black mane with a turquoise coat. She looked up at us and said,
Smokescreen, who are these ponies and why are they standing outside of our gate?
The mare who had been talking to us gave the older mare a small bow, saying,
The kid came up here on his own, saying the courier from the radio wanted to talk to you. She's the short one.
She looked over at me, her frown deepening.
Are you really the courier? To me it looks like you're a member of the NLR, though I've never seen a member so young that wears veteran ranger armor.
I am her, and this armor was made for a friend, I said, walking up to the gate.
Well, if you say so. I'm Javelin, the leader of the Annihilators. Why are you here? And please tell me you came to try and barter for peace with Trotston.
Why would I be here on behalf of Trotston? I asked.
We keep ourselves tuned in to Mr. New Pegasus. He just reported that you were heading this way after leaving to our home. The only thing that I could think of for you to come here was to try and get us to leave that town alone. I do hope that isn't the reason, because if it is, you can turn around and leave right now.
No, that's not it. Because I wanted to come here to ask about some pony. He told me that I had to ask to see the leader and give her a passphrase.
Oh, really? And what would that be?
The night still runs free, I said, smiling a little as the look on the mare's face went from mildly annoyed to shocked.
What did you just say?
You heard me. The night still runs free. That's what I was supposed to tell you. Javelin looked at the guard mare, called Smokescreen.
Let them in.
Wait, what? She asked.
Do it now!
Javelin shouted. She kind of reminded me of someone just now. I hope she's not a total cunt like Fletch. She nodded, then pressed a button near the fence. The gate slid open and we all walked in. Thank you for that.
We don't have time. Follow me to my office. If the pony who sent you is the pony I'm thinking of, we have a lot to talk about,
Javelin said, walking off. We followed her as she led us past most of the guard ponies and towards a small building that was set up next to one of the large hangars closest to the gate. She opened the door and waited for all of us to enter before following herself. The office was small, but set up nicely. It had a small desk with a terminal and a couple of couches with a coffee table next to them. Once the door was shut, she moved to the desk and got on the terminal.
Give me a moment, please.
Aura moved over to one of the couches and sat down, Wingnut, following her. Wind Thrasher just stayed next to me, staying quiet as the older mare typed something into her terminal. As she did, I asked, I was told you'd be able to help me with getting some answers? She finished what she was doing, then turned to look at me.
That all depends upon what you need help with.
That passphrase was something that was passed on to me when I took over here. I was never told that whoever it was gave it to me to be allowed in, and when I did, I was supposed to send a message to some pony through my terminal, which I just did. Do you know who this pony is? I asked.
Personally, I don't. But I do know he's a Pegasus. The one that's been in here a few times over the past few years.
A Pegasus? You mean that you all work for the Enclave? Great. Just what I needed right now. She laughed.
The Enclave? Hell no. We don't work with those scum. This Pegasus keeps his face hidden all the time, but he hates the Enclave more than almost any pony in the wasteland. We think he's a Dashite with a grudge, but we can't be sure. So, if this place is so against other ponies getting in here, then why would you let him in here?
Aura asked.
Because from what I'm told, he was the one who let my ponies move in here. The only thing we had to agree on was to make sure he could come and go whenever he wanted, and to let anyone in who gave us the passphrase.
She replied. The more I learned about this pony, the less I wanted to meet him. Though I had a feeling I knew who this pony was. This is all besides the point. What I want to know is why I was told to come here. I was told I could get answers. So far, I haven't seen anything to say otherwise. Javelin snickered.
The pony who you'll be helping isn't me. This Pegasus will be on his way soon to meet with you. While you wait for him, you can all rest up here in my office.
Is there any way we could, walk around? It'd be nice to check this place out. I asked.
Let's wait until you meet the Pegasus before you do that. I personally don't mind you being here, but the others get nervous with ponies who aren't from around here, wandering around. While you wait, I'm going to talk with the other ponies here and let them know who you are. When you're all finished, I'll have you meet with the other leaders of the Annihilators.
You know, I find it funny that you're called the Annihilators, but you don't seem to do much annihilating.
Wingnut blurted out, like the immature kid he is. She snickered again.
Truth be told, it's a name we came up with to keep ponies away from here. In the past, we used artillery here to keep ponies away, but not to the extent that most ponies think. We like our privacy, and the story about us keeps most ponies away. So you let other ponies think you're a bunch of nut jobs just to keep them away? How do you keep this town running if you don't let ponies in?
Aura asked.
We do trade with ponies in the wasteland, but only outside of our walls.
Seems a little bit of a lonely life to me. But you all used to live in a stable, so I guess I understand. Trotston's pretty much the same, and I'm sure my own stable would be like that too if we ever left. She frowned.
Please, don't bring Trotston up here. Remember, you're a guest right here, right now. I don't feel like talking about them. I would prefer if you keep them out of any conversations here.
I put my hooves up. Sorry, I forgot that your towns don't get along. Won't happen again.
Please see to that,
she said, heading towards the door.
Now, you four relax. I'll be sure to let you know when your friend gets here.
When she left, Aura looked over at me.
I don't like this shadow. What if it was all a setup for the sins?
Then it's a well thought out one. No, I think this was something the stranger set up. So far, we've been able to trust him, and I don't see another reason why he'd betray us now. I said, walking over to sit on the couch next to her.
Yeah, it's true, but I still don't like it.
Wind Thresher went and sat next to Wingnut. She pulled a book out of her saddlebags and opened it up, saying,
Look on the bright side. If this is a trap, we can fly out of here quickly enough.
I guess you're right,
Aura said.
I just wish we didn't have to sit around here waiting.
This is why you should always have a couple of books with you,
Wind Thresher said as she read her own.
You have one I can read?
Wingnut asked.
Look in my saddlebags. If you find one you like, you can have it.
Wind Thresher said, not even looking up from her book. I saw it was titled Path of the Lonely Pegasus by Squiggle Quill.
Is that a romance book?
Aura asked. Wind Thresher looked up, then nodded.
The author wrote a few novels during the war, but no pony ever knew who they were. All of Squiggle Quill's works revolve around history and romance mixed into them. I've loved their work for a long time. I even had a copy in the stable. but I never had time to read them all. Do you want to read one?
I'll pass. Reading mushy stuff like that isn't really my thing.
Same here. Maybe I'll jump into a memory orb while we wait, I said, looking through my inventory, seeing what other ones I had that I hadn't seen yet, apart from the other 2 Mom gave to me.
Great. Now I'm gonna be bored and I'll have no one to talk to,
Aura said. I giggled and laid down, resting my head on her front talons, looking up at her. You can watch over me while I'm in the orb if you want.
Or you can go through some of the magazines I've collected over the past few days. Some of them aren't really to my liking. I was meaning to toss them, but if you want, you can look them over.
Aura blushed as my head rested on her talons. She was trying to hide it as she said,
I guess I'll see what you have.
She reached over and took Wind Thrasher's saddlebags, pulling her talons out from under my head. She started to dig through them, and her eyes went wide.
Why'd you pick these up, Batty? They don't seem like your kind of reading material.
I couldn't see what Aura pulled out, but I saw Wind Thrasher blushing.
I don't know what they were when I picked them up. Those are the ones I was meaning to throw out.
What are they? I asked, trying to look up at what Aura had in her talons. She looked down at me.
Don't you have a memory orb to look into?
I frowned and stuck my tongue out at her. Fine. Be that way. I rested my head back on her talon. Getting comfortable, I pulled out one of the orbs from my saddlebags. But I'm using you as a pillow. Before she could protest, I concentrated my magic on the orb. It was the one Nexus told Violet to give me. I figured it was a Night Stalker one and wanted to know more about him. The connection was made, and right as Aura started to say something, the world melted away. Now, I was expecting to be in that stallion who had so much mystery about him. I was in a Pegasus that was obvious right away, but this was a mare. Not just any Pegasus mare, it was Rainbow Dash herself. I knew that right away because the memory started with her looking in a mirror. She looked older than the posters I had seen around Equestria showing her. A little gray was showing in her rainbow-colored mane, and quite a few lines were showing under her eyes. She sighed.
Why do you need me here for this anyway, Princess? I have plenty of ponies in my ministry that can handle a meeting about adding new ponies to our ranks.
She turned, and I saw that I was once again in the presence of Princess Celestia. She was sitting on a pillow looking out at the beautiful blue sky and sun that was still high in the sky. I was almost lost in the sight of it, the Princess of the Sun herself looking so beautiful and regal. When I saw her before, she was stressed and a battle had broken out. The tent she was in at the time wasn't like seeing her bathed in bright light of the sun coming through the door to her balcony. She didn't look back at Rainbow Dash, but I could see her lips pulling as she said, Rainbow Dash, this meeting I'm having today is something that I only entrusted to you, one of the Ministry Mayors. I can't have any of this getting out, and I can only trust you 6.
I understand that, but why me? I have enough to do with keeping the Shadow Bolts organized, and the SPP keeps having snags that needs my attention. Why not have Twilight help you with this?
She laughed, finally looking back at my host. I have a feeling that Twilight will be part of this later on. But she has a lot on her plate as it is. And even she doesn't know the pony we're meeting today is someone you know. I felt my host smile.
Oh, really? Who is it?
A Pegasus that's been slowly making a name for himself over the past couple of years. He should be here any minute. As she spoke, someone knocked on the door. A guard poked his head inside. Princess, there's a pony here to see you. But he's refusing to give his name. He said you know who it is. Ah, yes. Let him in, Celestia said, getting off her pillow and moving to sit on a desk on the other side of the large room we now sat in. The guard left, and a moment later Night Stalker walked in, followed by Greta. It was an odd sight seeing him out of his armor, as I was used to seeing him in it. He only wore what I guessed was a soldier's uniform. Same goes for Greta. He had no weapons on him and was smiling. That was just as odd as seeing him without armor. He still had a scar over his left eye, but it wasn't notable. It was like his happy face and sparkling green eyes hid it somehow. When the door shut behind him, he bowed low along with Greta as he said, "Princess Celestia, it's an honor to meet you." Then he turned towards my host. "Ministry Mayor Rainbow Dash, it's good to see you again." My host smiled wider.
Well, isn't this a surprise? I haven't seen you in a while, kid.
Celestia laughed a little, a large smile on her face. "Thank you for coming, Night Stalker interrupted the princess. "Please, princess, don't call me by my old name. In case you haven't heard yet, I'm going by Night Stalker now, and I'd prefer if you call me that." "My apologies, Celestia."
He's very insistent on ponies calling him by his new name,
Greta said, glaring over at the Pegasus. To my surprise, Celestia just kept smiling. "It's okay. I don't mind calling him by his new name. From what I heard after your last big battle, it's a well-deserving name. Wouldn't you agree, Rainbow Dash?"
Using the night sky and clouds, sneaking into enemy territory to take down 3 high-ranking zebras to stop their advance. Yeah, I'd say it's fitting. But names aside, why's the Griffin here? I thought we were meeting with just Night Stalker.
Greta glared at my host.
I go where he goes.
Night Stalker nodded. "Greta is my oldest friend and most trusted ally. I didn't see any reason why she couldn't join me. I thought this was just something to do with me disobeying orders during my last fight, though I wasn't sure why I was meeting with you, Princess." Celestia waved a hoof like it didn't matter. "It's fine, Night Stalker. You aren't here for that. From what I read in the report you sent, if it wasn't for you and Greta, we would have lost a lot of ponies in that fight." Rainbow Dash scoffed.
His commanding officer wouldn't agree, though. I still don't see why any pony put Thunderlane in charge of a group of ponies. He's not suited for that kind of thing.
"Second Lieutenant Thunderlane is a good pony. He just thinks he knows more than anyone else, and that makes him make bad decisions," Night Stalker said. Celestia smiled wider. "I saw that in the report you made as well, Night Stalker. Tell me, what would you have done? Thunderlane had 3 Pegasi, 2 Earth ponies, a unicorn, and Greta. You were facing a force of over 100 Dreebras, and you were just a simple scouting party. Thunderlane wanted you to retreat and get word back to the main force to stop them." Night Stalker looked at Greta. She nodded at him, almost like an unspoken conversation had gone on between them. Then she looked back at my host and Celestia. "It is true that he wanted us to retreat, but the zebras were heading towards a small mining town. Even with our fastest flyer, we couldn't have gotten message to the main force in time for them to save the town. I told him that if we took out the 3 leaders of the force, it would stop their advance, while they figured out who should take over. It could have been even forced them to turn back, since most of the zebras were agreeing to war and wouldn't know what to do without their veteran zebra leaders." My host grinned.
That's a good point. It's a dangerous route to take, but if it was successful, it would work.
It was dangerous, but if it was done right, 1 or 2 ponies could slip in and out before the rest of the force knew what happened. They were camped in a small valley, and the zebras didn't think they had to worry about anyone since they were so far away from most of the main battlegrounds. When I told Thunderlane about this, he told me to keep my mouth shut and to follow the orders I was given. He ordered the retreat, but I knew that if we left, then they would kill the ponies in the town that was only a couple miles away," he said.
"So you disobeyed orders and took it upon yourself to go in with Greta and attempt your plan?"
Rainbow asked. "Mostly yes. I told Greta to stay behind, though." Greta spoke up next.
I figured if he was going to do something so stupid, I was going to follow him and make sure he stayed safe.
Night Stalker nodded. "Yes, and she did end up helping me too. The plan worked and the rest of the force did leave once their leaders fell." "And your actions saved the lives of a lot of ponies. Even though you knew you'd face impossible charges of insubordination, you still disobeyed." Celestia said, her grin never leaving her face. "I would do it again in a heartbeat, Princess. Even if it meant you were to exile me from Equestria." The princess started to laugh. "I wouldn't think of it, even if I could. You know that Luna leads the country now, not me. I just help oversee small things nowadays. Night Stalker, as much as I loved hearing what you did that last battle, that isn't why you're here. He looked shocked. Then why am I here? The princess looked over at Greta, ignoring Night Stalker, and asked, Greta, from what I hear, you aren't using a contract to work for the military like most of your kin has started doing over the past few years. Why is that? Greta just shrugged. I haven't lived in Griffinstone since the war started. I see Equestria as my home more than there. They want to stay out of this war as much as they can unless there's a profit to be made. I fight because Night Stalker does, and I love this land as much as any pony does. I want to protect it. I'm glad to hear that. So I take it you'll go wherever Night Stalker goes? She nodded. Like I said, we've been friends since we were young. I'll protect him till the day I die. The same goes for me, Night Stalker said proudly. I owe Greta with my life. Without her, I wouldn't be here today. Celestia smiled and nodded. It's nice to see friends sticking together like that. From what I understand, you grew up in Griffinstone too, didn't you, Night Stalker? I did. My parents died when I was very young. Greta and her grandmother found me in the mountains near Griffinstone and they raised me. But from your military records, I see that you grew up in Cloudsdale, with a family that took you in. It says that you have a sister who works with Stable Tech. Is that not true? Celestia nodded. It is true. I was a young colt, and the Pawnees who adopted me met me in Griffinstone. Granny's the one who said I should go back with them and get to know the land I was born in. I didn't want to go at first, since I didn't know much about Equestria back then, but Greta decided to go with me too, and that helped. They took me in and raised me till I was grown. Greta nodded, adding, I stayed with them for a couple years too, until my gran got sick and I had to go back to Griffinstone. But the two of us stayed in contact. I moved back to Equestria when I was older and the war was just starting to break out. It's fascinating. You seem like a pony who has a good head on your shoulders, Night Stalker. You're smarter, and willing to do what it takes to help your friends in this country. You're also honest, and I like that in a pony. He bowed again, blushing a little. Thank you, Princess. I'd never lie to you or any pony. I respected, like you and Rainbow Dash. Kiss ass, Rainbow Dash snickered. At least that hasn't changed since your days in training. He smiled. I'm glad to see you're still as cocky as ever, Rainbow. Night Stalker, the reason I had you come all the way here to Canterlot and meet with us is because I've been reading up on you. I've noticed that over the last 4 years, you've been doing a few things that have gotten you moved around in the military, kicked out of a lot of companies. If it wasn't for that, you would have made an officer by now. For most ponies, they would have been discharged a long time ago. But everything you have done has been for the better of Equestria, not yourself. I see something special in you. That is why I want you to be promoted to a new rank and take on a special mission. A special mission? What do you mean, Princess? And I thought you didn't make decisions on things like that anymore. I have my ways of making sure things get done. As of today, Night Stalker, you will no longer be in Thunderlane's scouting company. I've already spoken to a few ponies, and you've been promoted to the rank of captain. You're leading a new, secret group of ponies that will be under the Ministry of Awesome. It looked like some pony just slapped him. Wait a minute. Captain? I just made sergeant. I don't know if I can handle that kind of responsibility yet. Greta, however, smiled and said, Sure you can, Night Stalker. You're smart, quick in your hooves, and always have a plan. You can do this. And I know you can. But why work with the Ministry of Awesome? I thought they didn't really do much of anything. Sorry, Rainbow, he said, bowing his head a little towards my host. She just laughed again. I see what you're up to, Celestia. So this is why you wanted me here. It is. Night Stalker, the Ministry of Awesome puts on a front to make the ponies of Equestria think the MOA aren't doing much of anything. The truth is, they are the ponies Luna uses for spies and more. Rainbow Dash herself is the only pony in her ministry that knows who is a spy working for us and who isn't. So you want me to become a spy? My host turned and asked the princess, Are you thinking about starting up that group?
You know, the one you told me about a couple weeks ago?
Celestia nodded.
I am.
Then her focus went back to Night Stalker and Greta.
Night Stalker. A long time ago, before my sister became Nightmare Moon, she took on a few ponies that had been orphaned and raised them herself. Later, these ponies became warriors that dedicated their lives to protecting my sister. They took on a name, calling themselves the Children of the Night. They set up headquarters on top of the mountain here in Canterlot, years before the city was ever created. When my sister rebelled and was banished, they all refused to leave their home and instead became the first protectors of the new capital. They never let any pony join them once Luna was gone, and they all died out after a while. But the traditions were never forgotten, and much of them are still used to this day for the Royal Guard. Their old headquarters are still on top of this mountain, and over the past few months I've had it set up with new tech so Luna could start them up again. With this war getting as bad as it has, we'll need ponies like them to help protect her and this land. I want you to be their new leader.
The look on Night Stalker's face was priceless. I didn't even know he could look so shocked. It took him a good 5 minutes to find his voice, and when he did, it was low and quiet. You want me to lead this group? And do what? Spy on the zebras, or get intel so we can know where and when the zebras will move? My host stepped forward, saying,
That kind of thing would help us with the war a lot, yes. But that's not what she means.
Celestia nodded.
That's right. You see, the Children of the Night did protect my sister, but they were also her private group of assassins. They worked in the shadows to make sure Equestria never had to see the kind of thing that needed to be done to keep our land safe. Back in those days, the word war wasn't even known to ponykind. That's because of people like the children. They did the dirty work so the normal ponies didn't have to.
It took another few minutes for Night Stalker to say anything. Instead of shock, he looked thoughtful. If I did this, would you let me set up my own team? How much freedom would I have with what I needed? Who do I answer to? And how do I keep this secret from others?
You can choose your own ponies, that won't be a problem. As for freedoms, you'll be allowed to do whatever needs to be done. You'll report to Rainbow Dash, and myself or Luna, once she's been informed about all this. As for how you'll keep this secret, we're going to put you down on paper as the captain of Luna's personal guard. You'll have a month to find at least 6 ponies to join you. You can have as many as 9 or 10 as you need, but you need at least 6 to make this work.
Celestia said. A smile came to Night Stalker's face as he said, This sounds fun. Well, if that's all, then I'll do it. I even know 2 ponies I'd like to hire. For me first. My host laughed.
Oh, and who would that be?
His grin grew.
Second Lieutenant Thunderlane, and a mare named Babseed. Both are good soldiers and loyal to Equestria.
My host frowned.
Why Thunderlane? He's the pony who thinks too highly of himself. I can't see him taking orders from you.
He will. He understands chain of command, and he's a good scout. He may not always make the right decisions, but I think if he doesn't have to worry so much about looking good to the higher-ups, he'll be able to do an even better job. As for Babs, she's one of the strongest ponies I've met, and perfect for heavy infantry pony. I'm going to need a pony like her if you want this to work, he said.
I remember Babseed. She's Bloom's cousin from Manhattan, isn't she? I didn't know she was in the military.
Rainbow Dash said. Night Stalker laughed.
She's not.
She tried to join 6 times and got denied because they said she had an attitude problem. But she really doesn't. She's just misunderstood.
How do you know this mare?
Celestia asked. She works at a salon in Manhattan. She's the mare who cuts Night Stalker's mane.
She also joined in on some sport he likes on his day off.
Trust me,
she's a tough mare and will be a good addition,
Greta said.
I said you can add whoever you wanted. I trust your judgment on this Night Stalker. You'll just have to be the one to go find them and bring them in on this. I'll suggest that you make sure to find a couple of unicorns. Magic is something that will help you out a lot. If you go talk to Twilight or Spike, her assistant in Manhattan, they should be able to find the right ones, Celestia said. He bowed low.
I'll get started right away. But there's one more mare I'd like to have join. But, for the life of me, I have no idea where she is now.
My host was the one to respond. Who's that Night Stalker?
She's a Pegasus who used to live in an old shack outside of New Pegasus. She ran away from home with some lover of hers back when the war first started. The last I heard, she was working with the Shadowbolts, but under a new name. I never found out what she changed it to, but before she joined the Shadowbolts, she was the mare who taught me how to sneak and hide. Also, how to keep quiet when in a fight, he said.
Now, are you talking about Pink Rose?
Greta asked him. Yeah, but like I said, I heard she changed her name when her buck friend died, he replied. My host jumped at that.
That sounds like a mare who runs my scouts. Her name's Cloudy Nights now, but I know she used to be called Pink Rose. Is she a light pink Pegasus with a green mane? Has a cutie mark of 3 roses?
Yep, that's her. I'm not surprised she's running as a scout now. That's a perfect job for her. I'd like her to join up too, if she's willing. My host took a moment to think.
Last time I talked with her, she said she was having problems with a couple of stallions in her unit and wanted to transfer. I think she'd like this. I'll meet with her today and give her the details. You should hear back from me by tomorrow.
He smiled wide. That's a good start.
Well, since we have all this settled, how about you head out and get to work? Come see me in a week, and we'll get you set up with your old headquarters,
Celestia said. Greta and Night Stalker both bowed low and said in unison, "Thank you, Princess," as they both left. When they were gone, my host looked back towards Celestia and asked,
Are you sure that was a good idea? From what I remember about the Children of the Night, Luna never wanted them brought back. At least that's what you told me.
Celestia's smile fell. She did say that, but give me a few days and I'll be able to change her mind. She doesn't like to be reminded of the old days. She feels like she'll end up going back to what she used to be.
Are you sure you can convince her?
Rainbow Dash. If there's one thing I'm good at when it comes to Luna, it's making her see things my way. Now, head out and make sure no pony hears about this meeting.
My host smiled and bowed low.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Princess. I'm just a dumb athlete who landed herself into a running ministry that doesn't do anything. Just a lazy mare whose head is always in the clouds, remember? What do I know about really what's going on with royalty?
Celestia didn't laugh at the pun.
Rainbow, this is bigger than you know. From now on, we can't let any of your friends know about this apart from Twilight. When you're done with talking to Cloudy Nights, you need to go find her and learn all you can about the Children of the Night. There's more to them than I said earlier.
She bowed again.
I'll have that now. Oh, and Celestia?
Yes, Rainbow?
I hope you made the right choice with Night Stalker. If you really read all his history like you said, you know what he's capable of.
I do. That's the reason I chose him, Celestia said, her face looking a little scared. Sometimes to win a war, you need ponies like him. Ponies that will go further than any pony else. He will be the monster in the night that will save Equestria. Or die trying.
The memory started to fade, and as she spoke, the desperate look in her eyes chilled me to the bone. I came out of the memory orb, finding myself still laying against Aura's talon. I felt something on my chest and looked down, as I saw an open magazine there. Aura loomed over me, reading it. She was using me as some kind of makeshift table. I was about to say something when my eyes fell on what she was reading. "Is that a Wing Boner magazine, Aura?" I whispered, trying my best not to laugh. Her eyes fell on mine and she blushed as she saw it.
Shut up. I like the articles. It's funny to read about the things ponies back in the day thought mattered.
I got up and chuckled. "Sure, Aura. You keep telling yourself that. How long was I out?"
Couple hours. Wingnut passed out an hour or so ago with a book, and Wind Thrasher's still nose deep in hers.
she said, tossing the magazine to the side.
Shh, I am almost finished with this chapter,
Windthrasher said from the other side of the couch, as her eyes fixed on the page, a small blush on her face.
Oh my, there's no way she'd fall for a line like that,
she said, flipping the page.
She did! How stupid are you? He's just going to break your heart.
Aura sighed.
She's been doing that every few pages. It's getting annoying.
Before I could say anything, a pony cleared his throat from the doorway. I jumped, and my hooves pulled Dreamwalker from its holster, ready to fire on whoever was breaking into the office. Then my eyes fell on the dark trench coat, black desperado hat, and bandaged face of the stranger. He was leaning against the door frame, his green eyes scanning the room. Those eyes looked so much like Night Stalker's that, if I hadn't known he died over 100 years ago, I would have sworn it was him. I see you're finally awake, Shadow Star. I've been waiting, he said with his slightly altered voice. Aura bristled.
How long have you been standing there? I didn't even hear you come in.
He chuckled. 5 minutes or so, but to be fair, you were a little preoccupied with whatever you were reading, Aura Blood Talon. His gaze fell back on mine. Shadow Star, I'm glad you made it here in one piece. Was it you that was telling me to come here when I was unconscious, back at Frosty Summit? I asked, holstering Dreamwalker. It was. I think it's time you found out about your mother and the Enclave, what they really want with that Pip-Buck.
I take it you knew more about all this, huh?
Aura said. I do.
How can we trust you? You won't even show us your face,
Aura said. I can't show you my face. Not yet. My identity could get me into a lot of trouble if the wrong ponies ever found out. You can trust me, though. I've done everything I can to keep Shadow and the rest of you safe.
Shh, I am almost done,
Windthrasher said again, not even seeming to care about the other pony in the room.
You can trust him, Aura. He's not lying. I can hear his heartbeat from here, and trust me, he's telling the truth.
You can hear my heart all the way over there? The stranger asked, his voice sounding shocked. She looked up over the book, twitching one of her large ears.
What part of Bat Pony don't other ponies seem to understand? I swear I'm getting sick of explaining this to everyone I meet.
Then she went back to reading. We all just looked at her like she was crazy. Then I turned back to the stranger and said, Fine. What do you want to tell me? Why did I have to come all the way out here to find out? He turned and started to head out the door. It's not something I can just tell you, Shadow. It's something you have to see. I got up to follow him. Well, let's get this over with. Aura, get Wingnut up, and Windthrasher, put the book away. We have work to do. The stranger turned back towards me and said, Only you, Shadow. No way. You might have saved me a couple times in the past, but that doesn't mean much to me right now. With what I've had to deal with, I'm not going to just leave my friends behind and go off alone. Not again. He sighed. Fine. But only Aura can come. All my friends, or I'm just going to leave and head back to New Pegasus. I have a lot more work I need to do. I need to find a way to get my friend back, I said as Windthrasher put her book away, looking sad. He chuckled. I'm not saying they can't come because I don't trust them, Shadow. The problem is, where we're going, they won't be able to go. What do you mean? I asked. Aura can come because of who she is. Her bloodline could make it so she could get into where we're heading. The rest won't be able to, I said, still chuckling. I don't understand. Aura put a talon on my shoulder. I think I do, Shadow. Let's let Wingnut sleep, and Windthrasher can go back to her book. I have a feeling that whatever he wants to show you, it's not something that's going to hurt either of us. I finally gave in. Fine. But don't you need to stay with Wingnut? He'll be fine as long as he's with Windthrasher. And he did order me to keep an eye on you when he can't. I'm just doing what I'm told. Okay. Windthrasher, you can stay here. We should be back a little later. She beamed at me.
That's great.
I really wanted to find out what was going to happen next.
She jumped back onto the couch and pulled out her book again. I chuckled and sighed, looking back at the stranger. All right. Lead the way, stranger. As we walked out of the door, Aura asked,
So, what do you think he's hiding under those bandages? I bet it's something embarrassing, like buck teeth.
Footnote. Level up. New perk added. Magical accuracy. Your ability with your energy weaponry has greatly improved since you acquired it. Your chance to hit any body part in stats increases slightly